Hello, everybody. Buddy Web Midland, Texas. Going to do a little short video today. It started when I saw a Facebook post here, right here, where it says, "Swingers trailer park to open in Louisiana. Bring your house and share your spouse." And so that's the one that gave me the idea to write this up, and it's a theory of what was going on here, and I think this might be right. And here, let me just start in and read this to you. I'll show you the proof files and we'll talk about it a little bit. But I think I'm going to name this large group of swingers in West Texas. Okay? On August 31st, 2010, the Midland Reporter-Telegram wrote that a large swingers convention was planned in Midland, which got canceled after it was reported in the news. This was billed as a hedonistic adventure for couples at Midland's Courtyard Marriott. That was about 2 months before the infamous 2010 underground oil show parties, where it's believed a young girl was murdered for refusing to prostitute. It's been suspected the famous missing murdered 13-year-old cheerleader Hailey Dunn was also at those underground parties. It looks like one of the underground homes is located in my backyard. The MRT wrote, organizers had scheduled, among other things, seminars about various aspects of the lifestyle as organizers described their sexual activities. The website boasted the event as a hotel takeover with hedonism and nudity. The group originally had a contract renting the entire Courtyard Marriott and had paid it a deposit of $50,000 or more. George Long, who would only say he was in north central Texas, said he was extremely disappointed at having it canceled. And the reason we picked Midland is because there's a huge lifestyle community in West Texas. He would not say how many people were expected at the convention, but noted there are lifestyle conventions nationwide and the events attract people of all ages. I put that in capitals on there and then followed that up. This last comment made me wonder if children were going to these swinger parties. In 2005, a swingers group was busted for having sex with children in Northeast Texas. This was wrote in the news. Mineola, Texas. In the windowless front rooms of a former daycare center in a tiny Texas community, children as young as 5 were fed powerful painkillers they knew as silly pills and forced to perform sex shows for a group of adults. It makes sense the East Texas swingers know the large group of West Texas swingers, so I've wondered if that was going on in the windowless rooms of underground homes here in Midland. The woman that I recorded on the phone, who said there were 4 3-bedroom $1 million underground homes, also said they were having pizza or pedophile parties down there. A swingers party underground may explain the ex-wife's comment about the night of the murder attempt when she said, "You don't know how many lives you ruined with your idiocy." Of course, I didn't ruin the life of anybody by staying home and minding my own business, but I got the feeling that she was trying to shift the blame from the criminals that broke into my home onto me because I had tried to stop these felonies from being committed against me when I tie-wired my spare door shut that night. She wasn't the only person that I'd noticed trying to shift the blame, as MPD Officer April Chandler wrote that I caused myself to suffer a gunshot wound. It's now known that I unknowingly trapped a burglar in my guest bathroom a few hours before they shot me by surprise with my phone lines cut. I had reported my first burglary over a year before this day, and the irony is that the police that I was reporting the burglaries to were working with the burglars that I was reporting. It's lawlessness. Her comment of, "You don't know how many people," told me that a lot of people were here and they were doing something that would ruin their lives if it was found out. So maybe they were having a swingers party and that is a secret they don't want to be made known. Would they murder an innocent person to keep this secret? I suspect their friends and family finding this out would be embarrassing, but now those people are witnesses to a capital murder attempt, and if they don't report this as required by law, it appears they were a party to this violent crime. You don't help people get away with murder, no matter how much it embarrasses you. Okay, and so I wrote that up, and then I put in some comments to back it up. I copied and pasted the first section that I'd already wrote there about what the Midland Reporter-Telegram had wrote, and then I put a link here, because I copied and pasted Midland Swingers Convention gets canceled amid pressure. Okay. This is the link, just like I said, August 31st, 2010. And it's what I was saying, where they were saying, that, hey, our swingers has all kinds of ages. We have kids there all the time. That's what they said, And I quoted them, right? They're having children there, And then here, the next, paragraph here was about the kids fed silly pills. And I put a link to that news story. This was national news, Kids fed silly pills. in East Texas, Mineola, Texas. I mean, it's horrific. What it is. And so y'all can go look that up if you want. I just want to show you that's where I sourced this information from. And then it makes sense that the East Texas swinger knows the West Texas swinger. And then the woman told me that they were having the pedophile parties, And that was you can listen to her say that in this phone call. She's the one that gives me specific details about the underground homes. They're buried at least 25 foot deep. How many bedrooms, buddy? She said there were 3 bedrooms, how many are there? There's 4 of them. There's all kinds of details. And she said they were having pizza or pedophile parties down there on this phone call. And she's one of many people documented saying they're here. And, it looks like you'd see the one in my backyard on Google Maps, And I don't think it's a what if could be. I mean, they're here. And very possibly this is what was going on, is having swingers parties. Okay. That next comment there where I said that the ex-wife's trying to shift the blame, saying, you don't know how many lives you run, And I heard, similar to that several times. Actually, me and my dad were having a conversation about the burglar that was trapped in the guest bathroom that night, and he gets upset and says, yeah, but you had the doors tie-wired shut. You had you had the shotgun, and I just said, I was under a home invasion. I'm home minding my own business. These criminals broke inside my home, right? I'm the crime victim, and then they shot me by surprise. These are killers, but he wasn't the only one, and she wasn't the only one, because also I saw this from MPD officer April Chandler. She wrote that I caused myself to suffer a gunshot wound. And I'm showing you that. This is an emergency detention form for the hospital on the night I'm shot by Officer April Chandler. Okay, it's time stamped here, just really minutes after I'm ambushed and shot. And she wrote in her own handwriting, Mr. Webb showed paranoia to the extent that and she started to write shot. See, it says SHO, and she scribbled that out, right? She was going to say that I shot myself, but she knew that was just a bold-faced lie because killers had broken my home and shot me. So she scribbled it out, and she changed her wording to say he caused himself to suffer a gunshot wound to the ankle. So I caused myself to suffer a gunshot wound to the ankle because I was staying home and minding my own business, because I was reporting crime to dirty cops. That's what she meant, is that I was reporting crimes to cops that were committing the crimes, and that's what she meant. She was trying to shift the blame to me for people breaking into my house and shooting me. And she wasn't the only one. Okay. And then that next one, I said, it's now known that I trapped a burglar, okay? And when I returned from the hospital 10 days later, now crippled for life, my career over, my reputation ruined, right? Here's what I find, this is my inside my guest bathroom, looking down my hallway. My bedroom's on the right, and there's my living room, okay? And at the top of that inside door jamb, I found these pry marks, okay? And they wasn't there, before I'd painted this whole house when I moved in here. And so that happened. It was obvious that happened on the day that I shot, And I figured this was a door that I'd tie wired shut right here, okay? And here was the nurse's notes at the emergency room right after shot, and I'm telling them I was tie wiring the doors I was tie wiring my doors to keep them out. I'd got home that day, recognized somebody had been in my home once again. I had been reporting these repeated burglaries to my home for over a year at that time, and I get this idea to tie wire my door shut, and I unknowingly trapped one of these criminals in this guest bathroom, okay? And then they could have turned themselves in, right, and gone to prison for 10 years for burglary of a habitation, but that would expose the underground homes and all the other rigged homes and all the other murders and crimes, They didn't want to do that. They chose to kill me. Their friends did, And then I think, this person who was trapped in that room right there, they were desperate to get out. They were trying to pry that door open, especially after I got shot. I actually believe who let this person out was probably Lieutenant Dickey, because he was in my house at 11:05, right? Remember? And he wasn't seen arriving on security cameras. He come from underground from where I shot. And I believe it was Dickey and probably Davis that let the trap burglar out, that they were working with the burglars that were breaking into my home. Interestingly, I was at the FBI in 2019, once again, under the advice of Homeland Security. And here I'm sitting there telling this agent my story, this FBI agent. He pulls up this picture on his phone without me telling him about it. right? And we talked about it, but he already knew, and I think that was why, because this picture was important, because it proved that I was shot during a home invasion. Okay, and that makes it capital. You know, I mean, this was a felony going on. The felony was burglar habitation, and they tried to shoot their way out, to kill their way out of it instead of turning themselves in. You know, and I've used that analogy before. You know, a bank robbers get caught and they're in the vault. You know, well, they can turn themselves in, or they can shoot the teller and try to get away. And that's what happened here. The criminals are breaking into my home. They get trapped, and instead of turning themselves in, they decide to murder their way out of it. That's what makes it capital. Her comment of, you don't know how many people, told me a lot of people were here. Well, where were they? Well, they were in the underground home in the backyard. Okay, well, I mean, I don't know how many times I've shown this. You know, you go to Google Maps and you look here in the backyard and you see a large building, but over here above ground you don't see the large building. And you got multiple people documented saying there's underground homes here. Recordings, you know, screenshots. You can see the tunnel they come in there where they cut it behind Home Depot coming to my house, directly to my house. I showed Homeland where that was at. 2 weeks later, they poured concrete there, you know. And here was a now removed tunnel entrance, suspected tunnel entrance. Here was another one where they took that tree out, remember there? You know, there's all kinds of evidence. But that's where I believe these underground swinger parties were going on. And then the last one, I suspect their friends and family finding this out would be embarrassing. Finding out that they're swingers, having sex with people's wives and all that stuff. But you know, what's really embarrassing is getting arrested for accessory to capital attempted murder. That's really embarrassing. And the law itself tells you it's a failure to report a felony. A reasonable person would believe that an offense has been committed in which seriously bodily injury or death may have resulted, and they fail to report it. Okay, then they're guilty of failure to report a felony. I was home minding my own business. Okay, these killers broke into my home and shot me by surprise, and more than that, they cut my phone lines. Remember, I recently said that that's what Manson did. The Manson gang went to Sharon Tate's house and they cut her phone lines. These criminals came to my home, they cut my phone lines and shot me by surprise. They were trying to make it look like an accident, and that was going to add $500,000 to the life insurance. This is Buddy Webb, Midland, Texas, talking about swinger, the large group of swingers in Midland, Texas, and let's hope they have at least enough morals to come forward and report violent crimes. Buddy Webb, Midland.